this is Sally Wood for Being Inspired, and I was recently sent these two chairs, so I will explain as I go along how I'm going to fix this problem and we can go from there. I'm going to find the centre of the cushion because the fabric I'm putting on is plain, which means that there's no pattern for me to follow up the centre. With luck, this would be centred. If I measure there to there, it's 29, half of 29 is 14 and a half. Put one there, and then the same here. Measure down here, along the back, that corner to that corner. 19, which is 9 and a half. I've got my centre mark at the back, centre mark almost at the front. This is a crushed velvet. For the most part, the pile goes this way, and occasionally there's a swirl or bit that goes the other way. So always make sure your velvets go down or forward when you're doing things. This bit here actually comes out slightly further from here. From here to here is 15. I'm actually going to make it 17. It will be wide enough to go over there. Here's my fabric. Put my mark on the selvage there. Here's my 17. Here's my pin, and I'm just going to bring that forward like that. So it's just over the piping at the front here. Also going to double check. Put my mark on the edge of the selvage here and run my fingers here. That's actually more or less in line. I always double check these things. No, it still needs to come over a little bit. There we are. That is in line now. Take that pin out and just pop it straight in there because I can use that as a pivot point. At the back, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the edge of my measuring tape here, measure into 17 inches. Move my fingers along underneath. Now that is actually to here. 17 is to there. So now my fabric is basically straight on. Make sure that it's flat on the top of your cushion. I'm going to double check this. Now 17 takes it to here. It just needs to come over just a wee tad more. Literally just not even quarter of an inch. There we go. It's centered at the back and it's centered at the front, and it pivoted where it needed to go. This is really important because you don't want your cushion cover to be at a strange angle. As with the cushions that I've already videoed and posted, you do the same thing. I'm going to put the pins along the join of the piping and the seat cushion. Because it's a thick fabric, I kind of have to wriggle the fabric into place because I can't make a really sharp line. I'm going to just carry on going around. This is my new sew line, and it's also the pattern. I have two cushions to make, so I'm going to use this pattern to cut the other side of this cushion and then two more, so I have to make sure it's as correct as possible. Come into the corner and push down into the corner so I get a good shape there, and again here, straighten that out, bring it forward and out. If you're unsure, you can always put some pins in like this, so corners to hold it. Fingernails into the join is the easiest way to do this. Then I can get all the shaping that I need. As I come in here, I've got two of these, so I've got to make sure that I get round both of those without stretching or pulling the fabric, because they have to be evenly put in. Now I'm coming around this corner and come round that curve. If you need to, you can put the pins a little bit closer so that you get exactly there, and I know that there's a corner here that I need to be aware of. There we go. And put that one in, then across the front here. Now I only need one here because it's just to give the shape, and then on round. So you can take smaller pieces, put little clips in as you go closer together, and then on down into this corner here. It's easier if you keep fingernails right in that corner when you've got thick fabric, because otherwise you sometimes lose your shaping. Pull that in. It still looks like it's got a good shape. There we go, on round. When you're on a straight line, you can do longer pins. As I come in around the corner here, I'm going to put one small one in here to finish that shaping, just like that, and then on around for the front shaping. And then I'm just going to carry on going around the front and up the other side until it's all finished all the way around. Make sure none of the pins are caught in the underside, and remove the lower cushion. I am going to start cutting. Actually, I'm going to allow a generous 1/2 inch from my pins because I'm going to fold it in half and make sure that everything is where it needs to be. Sort of 1/2 inch outside, those pins will be perfect. When I come to this piece, I'm actually not going to cut in. I'm going to cut on the outside of those, then on up and round. Be careful not to cut anything that's underneath. I have been known to cut things that I'm not meant to be cutting. When you've cut it out, fold it in half. Show your corners to corners and out at the bottom, and the same at the top. Where those corners are, match them up like that. That looks pretty even. Sometimes you'll find that they are a little bit wonky towards each other. Before I go any further, I'm going to put my clip in here for the center front. Double check my corner at the top here and do the same. Center here. This pin seems to be inside of this one here slightly. Make sure that they're even. I'm going to cut round, giving myself a 1/2 inch mark from my pins, and I'm usually relatively spot on, so I'm going to do this. Where it comes out here, I'm going to straighten it up to that. And then underneath I'm going to do exactly the same, but I'm going to take it to my new cut line, and I'm going to take these pins out because it's a little bit wobbly, which is not good. Goes out as well, because I don't want a wobbly line under there. I want a nice even line. What I'm doing is I'm evening up my cut line to match the bits I want it to match. Then it comes in about even. This will be nice and rounded at the front. Then as I get here, I'm going to swap, and I'm going to take it to the inside here, so about 1/2 inch from there. If you feel confident in your measurements, then you don't have to use a tape. I was just showing you by example. I'm going to take that out like that. Take all these pins out because I don't need them. I'll take all of these out too. Let it go flat and match all of this to here. It's a slow process, but it will be worth it in the end, especially as I can use this as a pattern for the 2 cushions. Now I've got a nice, I think a nice shape there. It's slightly rounded. Fold the fabric over at the top and twist it. It's nice and easy if I work straight on. Again here I'm going to feel where all of this is, and that is slightly on the outside. So again I'm going to just take that 1/2 inch here, because I think that's the nicer shape, and it's only slightly, so it will just make the cushion look a bit plumper if I've got it wrong. Cut that up now. Turn the fabric slightly. Feel in here, it all feels about the same. So I'm going to take this 1/2 inch out from the pins again, like that. Take the top pins off because those are the ones that I copied. I'm going to leave this pin in just for the minute, so I'm going to take this out. Oops, mustn't cut 3 pins either. Take the ones out from the underside. I'm just doing it bit by bit to get in there. Straighten it up. I'm going to take this one out just a little bit, but not too much, from my 1/2 inch mark. Really be careful about cutting things with your scissors, because cutting pins and needles with scissors is not a good thing. So that's that piece. That's nice and even there. Again, twist the fabric. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit, but not too much. Here, remove the top ones to that point, because that's all I can see. Take these ones out to the same point, and then cut on round. Now all I've got to do is get to this end. I'm going to do the top first, I think. The top and the bottom actually feel like they're matching, so I'm going to just remove all of the ones on the bottom and then just recut across the top, and then I'll recut along the bottom too. Sometimes these will have a huge difference on one side compared to the other, and that's why I do it this way, just so that I can even any problems out. I've had some terrible cushions in the past. It feels pretty even, maybe a little bit out, but I think this will be fine. So I'm going to just cut as evenly as I can up the side here. Take all of these pins out on the top and the bottom, and I'll just match those up too. Unfortunately, I can't get these out side by side, which would be perfect. I'm going to flip this one so I can actually see it against the fabric underneath. Measure out to the center, which was 17 inches from here. Pop that on the corner of the selvage there, pull this in and pop that on 17, which is about there, and pin it. And then I'm going to straighten this out against itself. Actually, I might be able to move it over. I'm going to move it over to 16 inches. It's not going to save a huge amount of fabric. I hate wasting fabric. If I can save it anywhere, then I will, because then I can use it from somewhere else. So pin that, having altered it, and then I'm just going to straighten all of this out along the top. Now this is the top. Again, I'm going to put my measuring tape there and go across, and I know it's a little bit rucked up, but I'm just going to pull that out to the 16 inches there and pin that in place, and then I know that I can straighten it from there. Pop that in there, the fabric, so that I'm only getting the bits that I need. If I start at the bottom and straighten that out like that. The fabric's going to hold itself in position for me. And although this is over a little bit into there, it's not going to matter. It's so minute. I'm going to cut this one to match. If you wanted and you were worried, you could pin all of the top fabric to the bottom fabric. Because it's clinging to each other like Velcro, I don't need to. I will put the centre mark in, saves me having to work it out in a minute. And then I'm just going to cut on round here. Now there's a little bit of a wobble there, so I'll just straighten that up. It won't matter when I come to sew everything in. I'm just going to carry on up here and then on round until I've got this one out. When you get so far, concertina the fabric, because then you'll still keep everything even, and then just carry on cutting. Especially if you don't have very much room. If you've got a lot of room, then you can really spread out. When you've finished, the one underneath is the copy, so I'm going to pop that up there. And then the one on top is the original, so I'm going to use that again to cut the next one out, and I'll do the same 2 more times. I'm making some piping up. I cut the fabric on a diagonal, and I'm now cutting it into strips of 1.5 inches all the way along. So I'm just cutting about 10 strips to start off with, because I really don't know how much I need, and I don't like to overcut. This is the side fabric, so I know it's going to have quite a bit of spare length. Just going to measure this across 10 inches. I have to have 2 widths at 4.5, just in case it's wonky. Just shake that out a little bit. All I'm going to do is cut along this fold all the way across, and that should give me my straight line, which I can use for measuring out the boxing for the side of these 2 cushions. Having done that, this is the edge I've just cut, and I am going to just cut this one at 4.5 inches from the edge across, and then I'll cut this one 4.5 inches here. You can see there's at least an inch left over. It might vary, and I'd much rather overthink it than cut a width and then realise that I've cut it all wrong. When I'm working out the band for the zipping, I fold the box band in half, and then I measure out, and although this says 2 1/4, I'm going to, that's actually a good 2 1/4, I'm going to cut 2 lengths at 2 3/4 should do it for this one. I will start them off separately and just go all the way across so that I don't do anything wrong. And then my second band off at 2 3/4. Really like long zips on this, as long as possible. I like all of my piping to go the same way. I'm going to pop that to one side and that underneath. And then I'm going to put this one face down, this to the top at right angles across there, and then slide that underneath the foot of the machine. And I'm going to sew from that corner to this corner on and 2.6. When I get to that corner, I'm going to fold my piece of fabric in half like that, and then I'm going to put my next one down like that. Actually, with this fabric, it's not that imperative that I do it this way, because it's a crushed velvet and the velvet goes both ways. But if it was a fabric with a set pile, then I would have to worry, or a set design. In fact, many people don't worry. It's just my personal preference to have my piping all going the same way. I like to use a piping foot. It's got a groove in it like that, which allows the piping to run smoothly through it. I've lengthened the stitch to the longest stitch, and I'm just going to put my piping cord in the centre of my piping fabric, fold it in half like that, slide it under, drop the foot and start sewing. The piping will run smoothly as I sew it. If you have to join piping, cut the piping cord at 45-degree angle and sew as close as you can get. And here's my length. That's also at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to butt the 2 angles together so they cross over. Make sure it's really pushed up there. And sew. And carry on going. I tend to overcut pieces, so when I'm working on a project or multiple projects, I'll cut long lengths. So I'll cut the whole thing off and then reuse the little pieces that are left over. So don't just throw the odd lengths away. When you use your piping and you have some left over, always take the cord out and use that later, as that helps save money. I've got a join in my piping cord. I've cut it apart from the rest of the chain, and now I'm just going to cut that like that. Then open the seam up so it's nice and flat. As you get closer, recheck it's open. Some fabrics will close up on you. Open it, keep it flat, and then sew and work towards your next join. What I'm going to do is attach the piping to my cushion. I always try to start at the back. Okay, mark your centre back, very important, because then you can adjust everything to fit. I'm going to go around like this because it's got knobbly bits, and I kind of work out where the joins are going to be. There's going to be a join on that corner, so I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to move it up a little bit. Now, this doesn't mean to say that I won't have any joins on corners. It just means that that one's been moved. I'll carry on round and see if another join hits anywhere. No, I think that's fine. So I take that back. Hold on, I've got join going on here. Here. Okay, so carefully push it back into position like that. And I'm not actually, this one I'm not too far from the center. Line everything up. It's on the longest stitch again, and the needle is in neutral. You want joins to be out of corners because there's a lot going on with twisting fabric. So I'm going to cut my piping flange at 45-degree angle. So to there, needle down, foot up. Twist it into its new position, push the piping back. Sometimes I will pull it all the way back and then let it fall into place. Usually do that if it's really thick fabric. Just helps it guide into place a little bit better. I'm going to carry on sewing down. So this is a round shape, so I'm going to pull this in like that, trying to keep it even on the edge, and sew. Coming into this corner, 45-degree angle, like that, and needle down, foot up, and check. That'll just about work. Pull it across, foot down. Now I do have another angle here which is the other way, so I'm going to pre-cut my 45 just over 1/4 inch in, not too far, not further than 1/2 inch. Oops, I forgot to cut this one. If you ever forget, just lift the foot up and then cut in. Put the foot down, a couple more stitches, needle down, foot up, twist, and I'm going to bring this one to here. I'm going past, so the heel of the foot is almost level here. Foot down, sorry, needle down, foot up. I've had a long day and I've only just started this morning. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch that out, wriggle all of this underneath. It helps if the needle is a little bit higher. This takes a little bit of finagling. Bring it all down and then pull your piping into place and carry on sewing. Cut in and just carry on going around like you would a tea cushion. Personally, I don't like joins to be anywhere near the centre front. It's just the way it landed. But on this chair, I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's a chair that I would be sitting in regularly, although I assume it's going to be very comfortable. If it's a favourite chair or a chair that's going to be used a lot, try to get the joins at either end if you possibly can. As you come in, sew towards the join and leave a generous 2-inch overlap so you can join the pieces together. The band that goes around the side needs to be lengthened, but not by a huge amount. So I'm just going to put those two together and sew across. And I'm going to just cut that back. I'm lining up this for the zipper. I like to run my zip teeth along the folded edge. That's usually a pretty good guideline to the turning. Just try to keep it as even as possible. Double check. I used to always iron them, which you can do, but this is a quicker way. I'm going to sew this all the way to the end. Because it's velvet, it just walks. So just be aware that fabric with a pile will do that to your zip, which usually means I run it at an angle. This foot is always being pushed in towards the zip teeth and the fold. It just seems to keep it more even. Now I'm going to put the other side in, fold it over, and I am going to line it up to match so that I've got the selvages and the start of the fabric there. Put that right underneath. Start a little ways back. Here again, I'm going to just fold it over, but this time I'm going to hold the fabric next to it up slightly as I work my way all the way down. Still pushing it in at that angle so that it stays even. Now you will find that although you've put two lengths in that are the same, that they sometimes don't run exactly together. It usually happens with a fabric if it has a pile on it, because it just walks. Having done this for a long time, that I think it's the way the zip is. I think it stretches slightly one side as it's wound around the cob. There we go. Now I've got to just put the slider on. So I'm going to just trim that so it's in a nice straight line. And it was very slightly off. I've just split it in half. The top tooth is on this side, and I'm going to wriggle that in until I think it's in the right place. Push the zip down with your finger so it grabs hold of it, and then slide it along, and that looks even. I've marked the centre mark of the whole band. I also have the centre mark of the seat, and I'm actually not going to start at the centre of the seat. I'm going to start around here, which is not usual. Pop that down. Here is the top part of the cushion shaping, and I am going to pop that about half an inch from that edge, like that. I'm going to start a little ways back, not very far, maybe 2 inches. So I'm just going to double check, about 4 to 5 centimeters back there. This is about a half an inch to a centimeter, maybe, from that corner. Drop the foot. The stitch is on the longest, and I've moved this needle over just slightly. And now I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to put my 45-degree angle there, so when I come in I can turn. Make sure that the seam is flat as well. Get to my corner, drop the needle, lift the foot and turn, like you do on any other box cushion. Wriggle the piping so it's nice and flat in the corner there. I'm going to mark my next corner. Now I do this separately, each one, as I get to it. It's a lot easier if you do it that way. Kind of tries to keep everything in line. And check. Okay, one more stitch I think. Needle down, foot up, and then twist everything back in. I'm pushing the fabric back out as I'm pulling the top fabric into place. Drop it, and I'm going to just sew to this corner. What I do notice is the nicks on the top are not quite in the right place. I'm going to put another one there. With a bit of luck that should all straighten out as I get there. I'm going to pull this out like this. It will want to curl slightly, so just let the fabric twist as you get there. Try to keep the fabric in the front as straight as you can. As I get there, just like on a normal tea cushion, cut my corner, so into the corner, drop the needle, pick the foot up, and then twist on round like that. I'd already done one, so I kind of knew where to start off, but here's my centre marks at the front, which actually line up, and I'm just going to carry on going around. This really is like just a normal box cushion or a normal tea cushion. It just looks daunting with the cutout on the side for the arm to go through. So here's the join going on the other side. I'm going to open the seam up so it's already flat. Cut in like that into the corner, which actually has taken a little bit off of there, but probably doesn't make any difference at all. Sew into that corner as close as I can, needle down, foot up, and then twist this into place. If you've got the seam flat, it means you're not fighting it as you get there. It's already in place. And now I'm just going to carry on up past this join here, just a little bit further, not too much further though, and remove it. Now because it's got all those knobbly bits, I'm going to join the zip a little bit earlier than I usually do. Let's have a look. Fold that in half and cut it. It's only a small strip like this because I don't want it to go into that join if I can help it. Okay, so I'm actually going to cut 2 inches off to make it. So just judge where you want things to be put is my solution on this one. And I'm going to join them end on end. I usually try to fold it over, but because it's a thick fabric I can't do that. But what I will do is I'll cut a length off here. I've centered it. There's a little bit of border either side. Don't worry about that. As I get to the zip, fold my piece of fabric over like that. Place it on top of the zip. Push the fabric underneath the foot. I think I need to pull it over a little bit. And then sew across. Reverse back over the zip and finish off. When I get to the other side, I'll do the same. I'm just not sure where it will be. Now, while I've still got this foot on, I'm going to peel back this, cut back the stitches only on both sides of the piping. I know that they're going to cross quite well, so I am going to cut this one off at a 45-degree angle, like this. Lay everything out, just to double check everything, but I should be able to go, let's move those out of the way, corner to corner on the other piece, so I will fold that also 45-degree angle like that, so it matches. I'm going to cut that too. Lay my fabric out. When this is all laid out, you can see how far it overlaps. there. I'm going to divide the overlap. It's about 1/4 inch, and that's my seam allowance on this. Cross it over the 1/4 inch, pop it underneath, which is about the distance between the edge of here and my needle. Reduce the stitch. I've got it on a 2.6. I'm just going to sew across. When I pull it out, it should be even. I'm not pulling it tight, but that's how even it is. Pop that back underneath. The seam is open. When I get close to the seam, I'm going to cut this at a 45-degree angle, even it out, judge where it crosses over, and cut the top piece at a 45-degree angle too. I'm going to slot one behind the other, like that. Readjust, make sure everything's where it needs to be in there. There's a little gap, but it won't matter, it's at the back of the chair. And then sew across. Once I've done that, slide it all under again. See, there's no ripples, it's nice and even. And sew it into place. Pop the border back underneath, and I'm going to slide all of that under. Make sure the seam is going the same direction. Here's my join here from the piping, so I want it a little bit level with there, so I've got a bit of distance between all the bulk. If you've got a domestic sewing machine, that's really important because your machine is not going to like half of what you do with it. An industrial will just munch over it, but line everything up. Oh, actually I can come forward. Okay, so my stitching finishes here, my border can go further under. That just means that it won't move so much. And then sew. Now I'm going to reverse so I catch everything down and then on round. Now you'll see that this is slightly narrower than there. All I'm going to do is pull that in so it's nice and even. Nobody will know. The join on this side is a little bit higher, so I am going to bring this bottom side up and work out where I need to cut that so that I can, actually I'll probably cut the same amount off as I did on the other side. It's still going to be generous. And then with this piece, I'm going to bring it down to here. Okay, so I've put a nick in it so I know where I'm going to cut it to. Fold it in half so it's level and cut. I'm going to dry try this. I want the join to miss, so there's my fold, so I'm going to have to take another little length off. If this was a thinner fabric, I wouldn't worry, but this is quite thick and bulky. Again, I am going to line that up, put underneath, start sewing, fold my piece of fabric. Now, something I have noticed, and that's the velvet underneath is walking, so I need to bring that back into line a bit better. It's crushed velvet, so the velvet goes in different angles, which is a bit irritating. And into place. Well, I've got this foot in, I'm going to join the piping on the second piece. So I've just put the border back underneath. I'm going to sew down towards where the join is, over that join. I'm going to straighten my border out to itself, and then this curve I'm also straightening so that it all goes in evenly. And I started stitching here, so I'm just going to sew into there and across. I've got all of one side in. Now I'm going to just line up the second side, pin all of my corners in. So this is the front corner, fold it along the edge so you've got it nice and even. And then I'm going to just join that corner and that corner in together and pin it. And I'm going to go all the way around this, pinning from the top onto the border as I go. And then that means that I also have my centres, which I know lined up, so I'm going to line those up because I will start on the front and work my way around because the back can do its own thing. Here again, I'm going to fold this in half. There's my corner, pop them in together so they're vertical, and then pin again. Everything of significance. So even these have to be lined up, and the easiest way to do this is I'm going to put that on here where the seam is. I'm going to come across, there's the seam, and put the seams together like that, and then pin those two because I know that line will match up. This corner and this corner, pull it in. This is only as a guide so it might walk against each other, but as long as most of these join up as close as possible, it should be the right size all the way around. Even the zip, all you've got to do is fold over, work out where the fold is. Got the ends of my zip together, my fold comes here, so I'm even going to pin the fold into place. Now I pin that separately on both sides. They should just sew in, but if it's already pre-assigned, it makes life a bit easier. And actually, I think I might have made that one walk a bit. So always double check. There seems a bigger difference here than here, but that might just be because this is wrinkled in, and this will do the same. As I did before, I'm going to start at the corner here, although it's on the opposite side. Slide that underneath. like that. Pull the pin out. Everything should be nice and even. That actually looks like it's too far over. Always double check, because even when you've done something and you think it's right and then look at it again and it appears to be wrong, just double check, because undoing these things can be a pain in the butt. Alright, so now I'm going to start sewing. The seam's flat, yep. Cut in. Literally you're just going to go around exactly as you already had, but on the second side. I've taken the pins out of this corner because it was a little bit awkward to manoeuvre with all the pins in, but I had pinned it just to get a pretty good idea of where everything was going. Now the second side is going to be really awkward because it's already kind of locked into place because of the first side, so just take your time, especially in these little tight corners. Now, this looks like it might be bigger as a blow if it is. Sometimes it's just the way everything is. As long as the front border lines up, we'll be fine. This doesn't look so good. It's not that much bigger, but it's a bit of a bind. I'm going to pull the top slightly against the bottom. It is going to wrinkle it, but it should pull in by the centre, because the centre mark is the most important. Pull it in and it's there. So I was probably already there. It just looked wrong. The front border has a bit of a serpentine look, so I've just got to make sure that that runs on the second side too. Take that pin out so I can manoeuvre everything. Still lines up though. And then head into the next corner. So the front looks like it's all lined up, which should mean that everything else is. I put in a really big zip. The main reason that this is a really big cushion, I'm going to ease the cushion into place. There's knobbly bits here, but they're not filled out, they're flat. I do need to line them up with the knobbly bits here on both sides. Because the thing is so big, it shouldn't need to be folded as much as they usually do. It says she who's struggling to get it in. This has feathers on it, so you don't really want to be messing too much with it. I'm going to get corners in the corner, the knobbly bit where it needs to be there, turn it over and do the same on this side. You don't really want to be folding these cushions too much if you can help it. Move down into place. Hopefully the back of the cushion will all line up. Smooth it and pat it into place is my suggestion. I've just taken these pieces out, which primarily go into those knobbly areas. Push that down on that side into place. Ease these back into position, or if you need to, put new stuffing in. Sometimes when you make a new cover you need new stuffing. So that's that side. To go over, smooth it out. With feathers you can kind of manipulate them slightly as well. Here's the bits from this other one. I'm going to pop in this corner like that. Find your zip and then just pull it and push it into place. This should be done. Now the reason I do my zips like that is you can't see where the zip is. That's not going to show, it's not going to cut the fabric. The pocket there kind of takes some of the stress when you're putting cushions in. I think that looks pretty neat. Might have to put some more stuffing in this side, I'll look in a minute. Thank you for joining me on this project. It was a little bit awkward in places, but I think the chairs have turned out stunning and I hope that the lady will be thrilled with them. Just because I like it doesn't mean to say other people do. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe and hit the bell button. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.